Thank you for staying with us. This is Sunrise, and we're looking at this time. We're still talking health. I mean, we just finished talking about noise pollution and how it impacts on your health. But this time we're looking at the World AIDS Day, the focus on antiretroviral drugs. Now, World AIDS Day is celebrated annually on the first day of December to celebrate and support global efforts to prevent new HIV infections, increase HIV awareness and knowledge, and support those living with HIV. The theme for this year is Communities Make the Difference. And our guest from our Abuja studio is Dr. Gambo Gumel Aliyu, Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Aliyu.
Thank you. Good morning.
So, Dr. Aliyu, this year, the theme, Communities Make the Difference, and the fight or the drive to create awareness and manage the HIV situation in Nigeria. How would that all tie into this year's celebration?
Well, for the last 2 decades, community have been making difference, but we haven't sit down, look, and recognize them in an important day like this. And World AIDS Day is one day in a year where we take stock, we look at our programs and achievements over the last 1 year, and celebrate or commemorate heroes past and present. Past, those who have lost their lives because of the disease, or who have lost their lives in the course of providing services, or those that are still alive and they are active and they are in the battlefield. They are out there fighting the disease either by providing services, or they have the disease in them by taking medication. Because if you have the disease in you and you are taking medication, you are helping us to fight the disease, meaning that this cannot leave you, or is not going to likely leave you to affect other person, and is unlikely also to damage your body defense system to make you look sick and give you the bad look people don't want to see. And on that note, we realize that we've gone far, and globally we need, as we are turning the tide, stemming the tide, and we're making gains globally. HIV epidemic globally is shrinking. What one thing can we do? What group of people, which category of individuals have played those significant roles that we need to ginger them more? Because the last phase of the race is the most difficult phase, which is the last mile in HIV infection. And that last mile is identifying people in the community everywhere, those who have the disease, and making sure that they take medication and they get retained in care and take this medication. That is one fastest way of preventing HIV from leaving them to affect other persons. So these communities have played role in the past, and they are still playing role. Communities of people living with HIV/AIDS, the volunteers, the young population, women, vulnerable children, people who are marginalized, and community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders. You people of the media, you have played significant role over the last 20 years. You are still playing a role, in getting this message across to the community at grassroots, and making sure that people understand the message, and also activists. So all these groups and categories of communities, we are celebrating them, we are thanking them, we are looking at them and giving them thumbs up, and telling them that, okay, the battle is not over yet. We have just gone 2/3 here in Nigeria, so we're looking at the last 1/3, the last mile. And this last mile is unfortunately the most difficult, because you got people out there that don't know about their status and don't even want to test for HIV. This is the problem. The people that are spreading HIV at the moment are people that either they don't know they have HIV and HIV is there brewing in them, or they know they have HIV but they're not taking medication, or they're taking medication, but they have dropped out of medication. So these are the people we are targeting. And to get these people is not going to be easy, we know. To convince somebody who doesn't want to come to facility to test for HIV, to test facility at the comfort of his room or somewhere that can accommodate his needs, and then come over to take medication also somewhere that can accommodate his needs, not necessarily the facility which he doesn't want to show up, it's not an easy task. So this is why we're emphasizing on community, and this is why here in Nigeria, in addition to the community, we're adding one thing, U equals to you. Many people do not know what we mean when we say U equals to you. The message we are passing there is, if you have HIV and you are on treatment and you remain on treatment, the moment the virus doesn't show in your blood, it becomes undetectable, then it is untransmittable, which means once the virus is suppressed and it doesn't appear, when we look for it in the blood, we don't see it, it doesn't leave you to affect other person, and it doesn't also continue to attack your immune system disproportionately to an extent that it brings it down and make you vulnerable to diseases and all sorts of illness.
Dr. Ali, you said that there's some people who don't even know their status, and some people are not even willing to go get tested. Are there any places around the country where people can go to get tested for free? Maybe if it were free, maybe they would come forward and get tested.
All HIV testing given at health facilities that are government-owned and health facilities that are even not government-owned, private-owned facilities or religiously inclined facilities, as long as they are receiving services or they are receiving support from our donor agencies or from the government of Nigeria, those services are free. The test is free. The medications are given free. And I can assure you, if we have 2,000 facilities across the countries that are giving HIV services, I can say about 1,900 are of this category. So majority of all of the categories of facilities that are providing these services are supposed to provide these services free. The test is free. It's not supposed to be charged, especially at our facilities. At a private facility, perhaps probably in some, if they require certain money because of logistics and the rest, but we don't expect those tests to be charged. And there are kits now that are available for people that don't want to come to the facility, and they have the means, they can actually buy them. They can do this test from the comfort of their room. They can test themselves. They can test either their saliva, or they can prick the tip of their finger and then have the HIV testing done by themselves, and they can now tell us the result. You can test, and you can easily see the result there, and you can, yeah.
Dr. Ali, we'll just have to interrupt you here to take a very quick break. When we'll come back, you tidy up on this conversation. We'll look at the antiretroviral drugs and their availability. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.
The two ministers of health arrived at the venue of the 2019 World AIDS Day Media Conference in Abuja.
The Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ihanire.
Apart from using the occasion to raise awareness for the control of HIV and AIDS, the Minister of Health, as well as other representatives of agencies of government, give account of their stewardship on the control of the virus in Nigeria.
Contribution Nigeria used to make was $10 million, and this year we made a pledge of $12 million, of which, over the next 3 years, of which we have included part in the budget to be paid, so that we are up to date and on track to meet our pledge.
Over the last 15 years, over $4 billion have been invested in HIV prevention and treatment in Nigeria. And what the result is the epidemic is shrinking.
Globally, there is an estimated 37.9 million people living with HIV and AIDS. 62% of that population are on treatment, as about 53% have already achieved viral suppression. In Nigeria, an estimated 1.9 million people are living with HIV and AIDS. 55% of the adult population with the virus are on treatment. This is in addition to another 35% representing children living with the virus that are also receiving treatment. Development partners say more still need to be done if Nigeria is to achieve the 90-90-90 target, which hopes to achieve 90% of citizens testing to know their HIV status. 90%.
Welcome back. We're still talking about the World AIDS Day and the focus on antiretroviral drugs. Dr. Ali, you were talking about the testing kit that's available, and people can test themselves and test their loved ones as well at home. But the other matter is about the antiretroviral drugs. How available are they? And what about the side effects? Are the people aware of these side effects?
These drugs are available. They are free. They are there at our facilities for people to check them. In fact, as I'm talking to you, we have more drugs than people can take, and we have drugs there waiting for people to come and take them. In terms of side effects, you know, over the years, this regimen has been modified and it's been injected with newer drugs that have lesser side effect than the side effect we have experienced in the past with some few of them. The regimen we have, especially now the first line there we're transitioning to, is very effective, less side effect, very efficient in reducing the virus, you know, to the barest minimum or even eliminating it from the blood. That is what we are advocating, and that is what we are calling people to take advantage of. You cannot take advantage of this if you don't know your status. You cannot take the medication if you don't know your status and you don't find out, unfortunately, you are HIV positive. The only way you can get to find out, and the only way you can get to benefit from this, and the only way you can get to help us and help the entire community is, first of all, know your status. And if your status is, unfortunately, HIV positive, that is not the end of the road. In fact, that is the beginning of another life of survival that can help you and can help the larger community to make sure that this disease is tamed, this disease is controlled, and this disease is eradicated and eliminated from our society.
Okay, is it true that when a patient does not adhere strictly to the therapy, the drugs then become ineffective?
It's not that the drug become ineffective, but sometimes it all depends on the adherence, the lack of adherence, and the medication that individual is taking. There are likelihood or chances that the virus, you know, HIV virus is a funny virus. It's a virus that can change the way it looks, a virus that can change its shape to make sure that it dodge the drugs. These drugs usually target the virus at specific locations. So that location where the drug found the virus and found it to be effective, you know, is usually there always, except if you expose the virus and you now take the drug out, which is dropping out of treatment. When you drop out of treatment, you take the drug out of the virus life. And if you take the drug out of the virus life, the virus is very intelligent. It will now recreate that portion and make sure that when your drug come back and hit, your drug will not hit and stick. Your drug will hit and fall back. So this is what the virus does, and this is what we call mutation. With time, the virus develops mutation and it becomes resistant to the drug. And there are few cases now here in Nigeria that we deal with. The prevalence of resistance is not that much, and that is why we are emphasizing and encouraging people to take advantage of it. The drugs we have now are very efficient. They are very active. The only thing is you can only take this drug, and we can only use this drug on you if you know your status. And if you don't know your status, there is no way we can know whether you deserve to have this medication or you don't deserve to have this medication, or even whether this medication can be of help to you. So that is why we are calling on people, and you know, this is what is going to be our campaign going forward. The issue of stigma and discrimination is coming down, and there are laws now against stigma and discrimination, and not even the laws against the stigma and discrimination, even the way HIV is managed has changed. HIV is no longer the disease that kills as it killed in the past. HIV is a disease that people now live with, and is managed, and you know, somebody with HIV can live for the next 30 years. There are people now that have lived with it in this country for about 20 years or more. There are people that have lived with it for 10 years. They are still looking healthy. They are still looking fine. They manage it the same way people with diabetes and hypertension manage their disease. So if that is the case, why the stigmatization? Why the discrimination?
Thank you very much, Dr. Gambo Gumel Ali, who's the Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. Thank you for speaking with us.